So there's this scandal that I want to talk to you guys about because I feel like it's so indicative of where we are right now as a country. It's a huge controversy in South Dakota. There's a church that basically wants to operate as a warming center for homeless people. But the government, the planning commission, denied them a permit. So stop and think about that. The government denied a church the right to use their own property to keep homeless people warm in 6-degree weather. 6 degrees. So this is the article here. You know, I went through it earlier. You're more than welcome to read the whole thing yourself as well. They really provide zero justification. One of the only complaints they make is that they would let them out at like 8 o'clock in the morning so they can come in at night, spend the night, leave at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they have some sort of complaint about, well, if they're leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning, well, the kids go to school at 9 or the kids go in there at 9, and it sets up a weird scenario where you got these homeless people and the kids, and they might cross paths, and we're worried about the safety of the kids, etc. But outside of that BS, honestly, BS cover story is what it is. The fact of the matter remains, what's going on here is a church is trying to do the Christian thing, the very Jesus-like thing of, hey, it's 6 degrees outside, probably the feels-like temperature is like minus 10 or something like that. Maybe we should put a roof over the heads of the people who are desolate, who are hurting, who are poor, who are struggling. Maybe we should help them out. And you have, again, the government stepping in to say, no, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. I feel like that's too perfect of an indication of where we are as a country right now, right? It's like good religious people trying to do the good religious thing, actually embody Jesus's philosophy, and you have the government in South Dakota, which, by the way, I'm sure the percentage of people in South Dakota that are Christian, it's like through the fucking roof. I'm sure it's a bunch of Christians who made this decision on the government panel. They said, no, you can't do that. So their answer is let them freeze. Their answer is let them freeze, let them stay out there. And this is what it's become with homeless people, right? There is zero thought, zero attention, zero support paid to them. When people actually want to take action and do something, they get stonewalled, they get stymied. I mean, we've talked about it, but you gotta have a right to a roof over people's head. And the thing is, a lot of people don't know this. The government saves money, too, if you do that. So not only is it the morally and ethically correct thing to do, it's also the fiscally responsible thing to do. Because if you leave people out there, what happens is it costs the taxpayers more money because they have to spend money in a different way, whether they end up going to the hospital or they end up going to prison or they end up, needing certain services that they wouldn't have otherwise needed. It actually costs more to just leave them out there. And of course, what we're witnessing right now in the second Gilded Age is a massive increase of homeless people. We covered the study the other day. What was it? 18% increase in homelessness. Now they say 770,000 homeless people. And that's a massive undercount too. Because it was a snapshot of one moment in time. It's probably way more than that. Probably over 100,000 homeless veterans that are out there in the streets. And this is not the only place, South Dakota. We've covered other stories where people, they just want to out of sight, out of mind. Arrest them or kick them out, make them go somewhere else. And people have argued, hey, it's my property value is being hurt because you have some homeless people that are a block over or they're in the park over here. And it's, well, if they're homeless, what do you want them to fucking do? There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. They can't get support anywhere. And then in this instance where you have genuinely good people who are trying to look out for them in fucking 6-degree weather to make sure they don't die, the government is going to block them from doing that, which, by the way, there's a conversation here, too, just about the notion of freedom. In a free country, don't you think the church can willingly and freely decide this is how we want to use our property? Why can we can't invite in whoever the fuck we want to invite in? So if a non-homeless person wants to go in there and spend the night, they're perfectly allowed. But if a homeless person wants to do it, all of a sudden they're not allowed to do it? How does that make any sense whatsoever? And again, what's the alternative to this? What's the alternative? Let him freeze in the street, or what? Just out of sight, out of mind, hope they go somewhere else and it's not my fucking problem? And if this isn't this exactly what churches are for too? Like the whole idea of a church is to embody the philosophy of Jesus Christ, the New Testament philosophy of Jesus Christ, and Jesus was all about looking after the poor and the downtrodden and the sick and the desolate, and they're trying to live by that philosophy. And here you have the government stepping in. Shouldn't it be the government, the one stepping in to actually say, yeah, we need to help out all the poor people, all the unhoused people, not just some? Shouldn't that be what the government's doing? If we're all paying taxes to the government, and, you know, as a society, we collectively decide, hey, what thing should we spend our money on? Wouldn't one of the top things on the list be make sure our brothers and sisters who are fellow Americans aren't totally screwed and totally out there in the cold, quite literally, and not like on the verge of dying because they can't get any support and they can't get a warm meal and they can't get a roof over their head, etc. That's one of the top things I would want in a healthy country. But here you have people doing the right thing and the government stepping in to block them from letting homeless people have a roof over their head in 6-degree weather. It's such a scandal. It's such a crime. And then you have, on the flip side of this, you have in California, for example, you have this genuine like homeless industrial complex where a bunch of con artists are stealing billions of dollars from the government, but not actually providing the services, right? You have this middleman, which is stealing all the money and not providing the proper services. And so people in California think, well, you're spending billions of my tax dollars and we still see more homelessness than ever. And if anything, it just makes them hate the homeless more. And it's like, this is getting untenable, bro. Because we're a country of con artists and scammers and greedy narcissists with massive egos. That's what those assholes are doing. I covered a story too in New York. You had a very similar thing. Basically, somebody was got a contract from the government. It was robbing the government to provide a place for homeless people to go. But it was all rat infested and cockroach infested, and it was disgusting. And basically, this guy's a criminal, right? You got to lock that guy up. This one who's got basically a government contract and they're faking a service. You got to lock those people up. But this is on the other end of the spectrum. It's like, in New York and California, it's like, oh yeah, we have a thing to help you. Just kidding. No, we don't. Right? And here in South Dakota, they're like, we're not even going to pretend to try to help you. We're going to ban a church from allowing you in when it's 6 degrees outside. Is this the country we want to live in? That's my question for you guys. Is this the country we want to live in? Is this what we want the future to look like? You want a country that gives zero shits about its own citizens? All right, quick, go send another fucking $30 billion to Israel, quick. You know, I'm sure they desperately need that to carpet bomb more kids. Like, why can't that money go towards setting up really nice centers for homeless people to make sure that everybody's taken care of? Why can't it go towards, you know, the mini houses that I used to watch a show on HGTV where they build all these mini houses that some people like to live in? Why can't we have that as an option, as a last-ditch effort for people who, you know, are on hard times? Why? That seems like it could be a pretty simple, straightforward solution, right? But no, here we are. You know, if I ran this church that did this, I would say, just let him in. Let him in and we'll deal with the consequences. And then that becomes an even bigger national story if South Dakota decides to crack down on them and not allow... Like, what are you going to do? Send in a fucking SWAT team to raid the church and kick out homeless people who are just getting a hot meal and a roof over their head and some help so they don't fucking die? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to force them back out in the cold? I mean, just the lack of basic human decency and empathy in this country is just astonishing to me. And now, of course, we have a president who's doing literal meme coin crypto scams 2 days before his fucking inauguration. Like, this is where we are. This is how much society has collapsed. And this is just the beginning. It's only going to get worse. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.